Hey guys, today I'm talking about activated and non-activated charcoal and how to make it simply at home. You can make it in any size container down to something even this small, or an Altoids tin, something that's really small. So I've been collecting different size containers so I can show you exactly this process, and it's really simple. And I'll actually give you access to a PDF that explains the different methods and the treatments of making your own charcoal and what it's good for. A lot of people say, well, what's the purpose of charcoal other than just grilling? But there's a lot of extra purposes you've probably never heard about. So I'm going to list 20 different ways to use charcoal once you've created it. So I'll give you a close-up on each one of these and give you some more details on what type of wood and the times, the temperatures, and things like that. Hey guys, so this is the second one of these containers that I purchased, and I've got a lot of different size wood in here. Now, if the wood is too large, it's going to take a lot longer to turn it into charcoal. So there's a couple of things you have to do. Once you find the right size metal container, depending on how much charcoal you want to make, you have to drill holes in the top of it to allow those gases to escape. And depending on the color of the gas, once you see no more smoke coming out of it, that means the charcoal process is completely finished. So down to the size of a handheld Altoids tin up to this size, and you can actually go larger than this. You can make charcoal in things like large trash cans or even 55-gallon drums, but I'm just showing you a very common and easy way to do it around your home. But the first step we need to do is we need to drill about 4 or 5 quarter-inch to 3/8 size holes in the top of this to allow the gases to escape to produce charcoal. Now I want to show you the exact drill bit I'm using to drill into this. These are excellent for things like drilling into plastic and woods. It's a step bit, and you can, based on how much pressure you put on it, you can increase the hole size. So I'll put a link in the description to these step drill bits so you won't have to deal with the old-fashioned wood bits. Sometimes metal bits and concrete bits don't work near as well as these. Now I want to give you a close-up of some of these different size tins I'm using, and even a used soup can can be used, and you'll think, well, how can you do this because it's too large of an opening? Well, when you go to do this, you're going to flip it to the other side and make sure you have a couple of small holes in the bottom, so that way the can that's open, you can have it on the ground, and then you can allow the gases to escape. Something like this Altoids tin, we're going to put a couple of small holes in there. You could turn this into charcoal very quickly. Another key component is to make sure it's hardwood and not softwood, so any type of pine or anything like that would not work as well. We're going to drill holes in that. And even something as small as the screw-on lid container. And of course, I'll put a link in the description to as many of these products that I use, but make sure you use these, remove these plastic things there, and then you can put a small, very small hole in the top, and you can put this in a campfire and turn that small piece into charcoal. So even something as small as this, and once you have the charcoal made, you could turn this into a small stove. You could add a little bit of alcohol to it and have it as a micro stove. So depending on what your needs are, you can have a lot of different uses. Now, these unused paint cans, I bought these off Amazon. They come in multiple sizes from gallon down to quart, and even this size right here. So very small. There's no sprayed in lining on the inside of it, so you don't have to worry any bad gases coming off of it. And I picked this canister up. I saw it at my local grocery store, and this was in the imported food section, and it just contained crackers. A little bit hard to get the top off there, but as you can see, I've cut the wood to just the right size so it can work well. But any one of these containers, the key thing to do is make sure you put 3 or 4 up to 6 holes in the top of this to allow those gases to escape while it's being cooked. And another thing is the key temperature is over 600 degrees and a minimum of 2 hours. So I've created the holes in each one of these containers to allow those burning gases to escape. It won't work unless you do that. Also, in this particular can where we have a large open top, I put 4 holes where the gases can escape. Something as small as this screw-off lid, I put only 1 hole there. In our unused paint can, I put some holes in the top of that. Also our food container, same thing. And even the small Altoids tin, which may get lost in the fire. I may have to rake around to find it, but I put 3 small holes in there so we can do a test. So any size container, whether you're out on the trail, camping, and you just want to create your own charcoal, you could do it with these smaller ones, or if you're doing this in your home fire pit or anywhere where you have a campfire going, you can use up to these large containers. Pretty easy to do, and this gives you quite a supply of charcoal. Now, the last couple of months, we've had a drought situation going on in my area, and I haven't had a fire. I've been wanting to do this video for quite a few months now, but now that we've had a little bit of rain come in, I feel like confident in having a fire in my fire pit without having to worry about it jumping out of the fire pit and possibly getting into any wooded areas. So we're going to take this out to the fire pit, cover it with all of our yard debris and things like that. You're not limited to that. Like I said, you can do this in a burn barrel, a fireplace, a wood stove, and some of these smaller size containers. So there's a lot of variables there. Now, as I said earlier, I've created a PDF that you can download. The link is in the description. If you're a member of the Patreon, you can get it for free. And if you're not, you can still get it for just a few dollars. So either way, it's very detailed, tells you about activated charcoal, 20 different uses, common uses for charcoal, and this whole process. So it's really easy to do if you follow this guideline. And we're going to go to our next step of creating the charcoal in my fire pit outside. Now, when it comes to this open top can, I'm going to flip this upside down and put it in the soil there. And so that way we're assured to still be able to create our charcoal, even though the can doesn't have it, has a large opening on the opposite side. On this smaller size can, I'm going to place it in a small canister, tin, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to place it inside of this one to make sure I don't lose it, because this is going to be quite a raging fire. Also, I'm going to do the same thing with my Altoids. So these smaller containers are being put inside of this container so I don't lose them once I have a large amount of debris and ash. So just remember, these smaller ones, you want to make sure if you have a large fire that you're able to find these after the fact. Now, I actually have 3 different piles of yard debris, limbs, and things like that have fallen over the last couple months that I wasn't able to burn. I thought this was the perfect time to create some charcoal because I have a very large supply of material I'm going to burn. So I wouldn't create this charcoal if I didn't already have a lot of things to burn. So if you do have a lot of yard waste, it's the perfect time to create charcoal, and you'll find so many uses for it. I'm going to list them in that PDF I talked about. But anyways, we're going to get this started. I'm going to feed the fire over the next couple of hours. And in the morning, once everything's cooled down, you'll be amazed at how good the charcoal is. It is something that you'll be able to find so many uses for it. I'll list all 20 of them for you. But again, that's not all their uses, but that's just the 20 of the most common that I know about. So let me get this fire started, and then we'll see this process take place overnight. Hey guys, so it's the next morning and there's still some heat on around the coals that are buried under here, but the charcoal I believe is fully made. Now I haven't opened anything yet and I want to do that live on camera, but what we're doing is we're waiting till it cools down a little bit and then I can open it and show you. But the charcoalization or the carbonization phase should be over in about 2 hours, but I went ahead and let this go all night long because I wanted to make sure that some of those larger pieces, some of the firewood pieces that are over 3 inches in diameter, completely carbonized. So the small cans, no problem there. I'm sure that they've completely carbonized and completely converted to charcoal. So as I mentioned earlier, the PDF is going to have 20 different methods or 20 different uses for charcoal, and I'll put a quick list here on the screen so you can see it. So if you're interested in that, if you're a member of the Patreon, just go over there, take a look at that PDF. You can download it, print it out, whatever you want. And if you're not a member of the Patreon, you can just get it for $3. So there's a lot of uses for charcoal, and I'll even talk about how to make activated charcoal, which is a huge difference. I often take that when I feel like I've ate something that may have been slightly spoiled or possibility of food poisoning. That's an incredible use for activated charcoal, and I've been using that for over 20 years. So let's open up this live on screen and take a look and see how quality or what quality our charcoal now is. Now let's first talk about the soup can, and I got a little bit of ash in there, so that's actually from when I flipped it over, but this one had a completely open bottom, and so I actually flipped it upside down and put it on top of the soil where this could not ignite other than expelling the gases off the wood. But let's take a look at this and see how well that worked. A little bit hard on getting it out there. And it should be light. It should have a very light feel to it and easily broken. So as you can see there, it has become charcoal without even having that bottom on it. So the main thing is I had it sitting like this on the fire, and I drilled the 4 holes there. So as you can see, even with a soup can, if you just have an open soup can, you can make charcoal quite easily, very light and exactly what we want it to be. So it has so many different uses. But there you go, that's completely through all the way. I'm hoping you can see that well on the screen. I'll hold it a little bit closer to the camera. So this is completed, it's complete carbonization phase in just an open soup can. Next, we'll go on to this sealed paint can. Now there is one thing I want to say just as a precautionary statement about opening these while they're still extremely hot and the carbonization phase may not be through, is that it could self-ignite. So one thing you want to make sure is that you've waited the cool down period, which could be another 2 hours on top of the burn phase. So this is the next morning, so we have no worries about that. A little bit tight. I'm going to go around the edges and try to pop it off without getting too much charcoal in there. And I can feel the can is still hot because those charcoals this morning were still quite hot. So let me get the rest of that off there and take a look and see what level of charcoal or carbonization we have inside. This one's a little bit harder to get off because of the heat involved in making this. We're going to take that off there. Okay, and it shrank down quite a bit. One thing I will say that when the starting size, these were about the same length as the can, and they've condensed a little bit in size. So let's break these. Comes apart. It is the perfect charcoal for any of those uses I mentioned. Let's see if you can get a good look at that. So this was inside of a sealed container, unlike the soup can, which had an open bottom on it, but still we had the same exact results. Very good charcoal and can have a lot of good uses. So there you go. It's very light to the touch and it breaks very easily. So that is our sealed paint can, and you're not limited to this size. I've got some gallon sizes as well, but I just wanted to show you that it can be made in a smaller type of can like this. And of course, you know, with a sealed lid, you're guaranteed to get some good quality charcoal. Now this was our saltine cracker, and it took a little bit of effort. I had to do a little bit of prying before I got it off there. So anyways, it is ready to come off now, but I haven't taken a look yet. But what I want to say about these burn holes, this is very common to see. When you first start burning, you're going to see white smoke. That's the moisture evaporating. Then next stage, you're going to see yellow or gray smoke, and that's the volatile organics burning off. Now once you see little to no smoke, the process is nearly complete. Now another thing that you're going to often see, and I saw this yesterday in all the containers, is you're going to see jets of flame coming out of the holes. That's just the process of the combustible gases reburning. It's a natural part of this process. So let's take this lid off, and let's see, there's our Altoids can. We'll open that in just a minute. And as you can see, same exact process, very lightweight, just like the type of charcoal you might buy. And so it's burned all the way through. I'm hoping you can see that clearly. But we've got an entire can now of charcoal, and this is a little bit weak because the metal on this was thin. So I think the paint can may actually be a better option than using something like this saltine can. And I'll put a link in the description to those paint cans. They're really easy to find. The ones I noticed at my local hardware did have some type of lining sprayed into it. So I like the ones that came from Amazon. They had no lining, just like this particular can. There's no lining in it. But anyways, very crisp break, very, very burned all the way through, very carbonized. And so there you have it, a full bucket, a small bucket though, of charcoal for any of those needs we talked about. Now I had to dig all the way to the bottom to find the extra small container, and the metal on this is just too thin. It basically just disintegrated. So as you can see, even though the small piece of wood we had in there did become charcoal, it is, hoping you can see that on camera, it is charcoal. The metal container, the metal is so thin and weak that it did a lot of damage even though it was inside the can. So this wasn't directly in the fire, it was inside the can, the saltine can. So as you can see, I wouldn't recommend using these super small cans. Now, what about the Altoids tin? It looks like it's in pretty good shape, no damage to it, and I've seen where these were actually made into stoves, and I'm going to make a future video about that. But the Altoid cans Let's take a look inside. Perfectly carbonized, very lightweight. It is charcoal now. Now, let's see if I can hold that up close enough where you can see it burned all the way through, totally carbonized. And so this right here will work. This was not directly in the fire. It was in the larger container. So putting this directly in the fire, I'm not sure if the Altoid can would hold up to that kind of heat. But you can put a container, an outer container on this, and you'll have a perfectly carbonized wood. If that's all you have, I'd recommend not putting it directly in the fire, because I think if you have an extremely hot fire, I think some of the metal itself may be damaged like it was on this smaller container. So there you have it. Even something as small as an Altoid can be used to create carbonized wood. Now, I've used this type of container before. I got this at Tractor Supply, and it's just like a feed bucket, just a smaller version of a large trash can. And you could use a trash can, but I didn't really need that much charcoal even on my first attempt at this. So this is the second one of these I've owned. As you can see, there's some denting on the top. That's where I dropped some really heavy logs on it when I was doing the fire. So this wasn't actually damaged from the fire itself. So let's take the lid off, and it's still quite warm. I can feel it even from the outside. And let's see if you can see that. So it looks like we have quite a bit of charcoal. It's very light. And we're going to break that just so you can see how easy it is to break. And it is solid charcoal all the way through. Let's take one of them. And these were firewood pieces that I purchased at my local grocer, and I just wanted to try that because these are quite a bit thicker than some of the limbs I've used. As you can see, these limbs that I cut myself, only about 1 inch in diameter. These were a good 3 to 4 inches in size, so you have a lot of charcoal. Whether you're grilling, whatever you're using it for, you're going to have a much larger amount of charcoal. Just store it away somewhere dry, and you'll have all the charcoal you can use. So that worked great for this size container. It's reduced down in size because it was up around the edge, so there is a little bit of shrinkage when you're burning it there, so a lot of those moistures are gone out of it, and so it's more compact. But there you go, perfectly made into carbonized charcoal and all of those great uses we're going to talk about. So guys, this is only about half of that larger metal container I used, and you can see there's a lot of high quality charcoal here. If you're only wanting to make a very small amount of charcoal, I would recommend the paint cans without any type of sprayed in lining in it. Like I said, some of the ones at my local hardware store actually had a lining in it, so check that link in the description at Amazon and make sure you get one that does not have a lining, which would contaminate your charcoal. So we want just a can. And the other main point I want to make is this is all hardwood, no softwoods, no pines or anything like that. So hardwoods are going to work much, much better. Pines, not so much. So we want a really good quality hardwood. A lot of times when you buy lump charcoal in the bag, you'll see that it's made with hardwood. Now, again, with any video I make, I usually get a ton of questions. So I created the PDF that you can download and you can store away, save it on your computer, print it out to a hard copy or whichever, and that will help you quite a bit with any questions you might have about this entire process, and also making activated charcoal. So it's all covered in the PDF. You could get it for free if you're a member of the Patreon, as I mentioned earlier, or you can pay $3 and get a copy of it that you can store forever on your device. So guys, this is a simple way to make something that has so many positive uses, everything from barbecuing to food poisoning, and you can find all those answers in that PDF, or else this video would be about an hour long if I went through every single description and how to do it. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. Hope you'll become a subscriber so I can put your question to the front line if you have one. And if you really want to help the channel grow, please become a member of the Patreon, link in the description. So guys, have a great day.